about something that I think is a bigger issue. I think it is a bigger trend. I think it's a bigger theme. And I think this is something that everyone needs to, if not agree with, okay, don't suggest you agree with me 100%. What I do suggest is don't ignore that this is a potential or a possibility. Russia is the big bad wolf of the baby boomer generation. Why does that matter? Okay, let's go back in history real quick. We'll kind of bring it forward. Baby boomers, in effect, the first birth year was 1946. That's the general consensus. Anything up until 1964 were the boomers. You have this massive boom of births in this give or take 20-year span of time. Coincidentally, around that same time, in fact, 1947. So again, first baby boomer, effectively born 1946. 1947, what would be, I guess, classically defined as the second Red Scare began. This was what colloquially is referred to as McCarthyism. When everybody questions everybody, you're a communist, everybody's a communist. Okay, the Red Scare, you're familiar with it. But okay, what is a communist? A communist translated fairly directly to a Russian. That was the threat. The threat was Russia. We had Cold War. I am just scraping the outermost crust as I look at this from a historical perspective, but what I want to align is first baby boomers born 1946 and the second Red Scare, give or take, 1947. Okay, fast forward to the past 6-7 years. I remember, I want to say it would have been 2011. That is when the alarm bell sounded that the first baby boomer was set to retire. You have this massive swath of individuals who are retiring, and there's economic influence and impact to that. There's been plenty of attention paid to, okay, what does that mean for jobs? What did the Great Recession mean to these people actually retiring? Are they still working? Okay, look, we're going to table all of that. For the sake of this argument, I want to kind of just put that on the sideline. What I want to focus on instead is, if you agree that these people are at least of retirement age, they are likely inclined to seek out retirement on a whole, not the individuals, the swath of individuals. And in retirement, these are people who retired into a world that is far more digitally connected. Yeah. Most people who are watching this very well could be baby boomers. Okay, that's a testament alone to the fact that you're engaged in the same media or mediums for communication as are, the preteens right now. Yeah. Retirees have more time on their hands. Okay, like that is something in my planning life that more often than not, retirees either have no idea how they ever worked because they're so busy, or they go, I am bored out of my mind and I have no idea what to do. I have no identity any longer, whatever it is. And they have all this extra time on their hands. The vast majority of people, they had a lot of identity embedded into their work life. With more time on your hands, you have more time to watch news, read newspapers, think about things that you're familiar with. We know that concrete intelligence, or the ability to recall a lot of information of value, let's just say, bring your seasoned veteran's point of view to the table, is very strong in individuals as we get older. Our fluid intelligence, our knowledge of or ability to learn new things, does tend to get a little bit weaker. Or I would even kind of look at it more as our ability to look at new things with an open mind. Because younger people have less to compare it against, they have less to compare it to, and they also have less time to kind of build these internal, innate beliefs that the way I did it was right. The older you get, it's just a fact of life, where it's okay. We all do it. But this is all important because I mentioned that the media, while I'd love to think, I really would, I would love to think that the media cares deeply about giving you nothing but relevant, clear, and unbiased news. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. They don't. What they care about is where the profits are. Now, there are individuals who do care about these journalistic standards, or what we like to call journalistic standards, okay? That is the journalist's equivalent to the Hippocratic Oath, the idea of, do no harm type of thing. Do all doctors practice under that? They say they do they? It depends on how, good the pharmaceutical rep is. The point that I make here, though, is there may be individual journalists who have the best intentions, but if they have the best intentions and they deliver a story in the most unbiased fashion, you and I both know that that's not necessarily going to grab attention of everybody, or at least hold their attention. Who will grab attention is the individual who presents something maybe with a little bit of a pizzazz or a little color, maybe a little bit of an angle or a bias. Turn on the TV, you're gonna see it. It happens. It's everywhere. The point that I make there is, okay, there's going to be a bias. There's going to be an inclination, and that inclination is going to favor what keeps people's attention. Okay? They make their profits based on advertisers, based on revenues generated from the attention that they're able to catch, okay, and hold. Well, now we're going to kind of bring these two stories together. Story number one is kind of the history of baby boomers and Russia, the Red Scare. Story number two is retirees watching more news, having more time to watch, read, digest news. And then, I would, I guess, say that maybe even like the third leg to this stool is the media outlets looking for and gravitating towards, they're magnetized by the things that work the best, the things that get people the most. It is very, very difficult to find a baby boomer who does not have an intrinsic bias against Russia. They have every reason to have a bias against Russia. In their day and age, when they were in their most formative years, when their opinions of the world were being formed as children, as adolescents, they were faced with genuinely a real threat. We can prove that. We know that the threat was there. I mean, we were, just a hop, skip, and jump away from missiles going haywire. But they kind of think of it like religion. If you're brought up with this incredibly ingrained, deep-rooted belief in a religion, it's very difficult to actually challenge your own belief system later in life, even if someone can present you with all of the reasons why this is just crazy talk. I'm going to use Christianity. What if there were a way, this is purely hypothetical, but if it were somehow factually able to be proven that, in fact, the devil were actually the good guy, do you really think that a lot of Christians would be able to immediately accept that? No. That would be so difficult for them to overcome, even if all the facts were presented to them and the case were indisputable, okay? So if you think about that in the sense of Russia, sort of the religion against Russia that the baby boomers were taught into, they're indoctrinated for good reason with the belief system that Russia is the devil. They are the bad. They're the bad, the big bad wolf. If I'm a media source, okay, I have a natural gift presented to me with this big swath of people who are watching more news, more television, more whatever than they ever have in the past working years, 40 years, okay? They are engaged more with their society, okay? They're on Facebook. They're doing, the Twitters and Instagrams, and, they're engaged. They're not fools to this. I've got this avenue where I can effectively take their big scary monster in the closet and I can constantly reposition it. And no matter what they actually find out to be true about this big bad monster, there's still going to be this inherent innate fear for this thing. Now, there is no coincidence in the fact that a lot of the political leaders today are of the baby boomer generation. So is it fair to say, and I ask this of anyone, is it fair to say, it's just the media who's spinning Russia into this monster to pad their wallets and to generate revenues and to gain more viewership? No. There's just as much influence being played out by baby boomers who live in that geopolitical environment that is Washington, D.C. and greater. But there are a lot of these folks who, again, they're baby boomers, they're in those political spheres, they're deep inside, and they may not be able to step back and say, is this actually bad? I don't know. It's not their fault necessarily. Now, what is their fault is, okay, can you step back from it? Are you able to stop and say, okay, is this sound rational, logical? Is this sensible? And it's very uncommon to find people who can look at things sensibly. And again, there is a lot of proof that Russia has some nefarious efforts towards the U.S. Quite honestly, when you're on the top, everybody's coming for you. The point is that all of this attention is being paid because Russia is the big bad wolf of the baby boomer generation. So it can be profitable for news outlets. It can be constructive for political motivation or for political leaders who have a vested interest in fighting off their big bad wolf. It is profitable to keep Russia in the headlines in some way, shape, or form. I offer that to you because there may be a problem with Russia. Some of these things may actually be real threats to our own well-being, our own kind of collective success, our own economic influence, our own whatever. But just be mindful of the fact that it is very profitable for someone to keep Russia in the news, especially when baby boomers have such a innate distaste and an innate bias against Russia. Just be very aware of that. So that's my pitch for the day. That's my thought. That is today's uncommon sensibility. I'll look forward to talking with y'all again in the near future.